In a residential yard, a worker reaches the final stage of a sizable tree removal task. As the work finishes, the tree moves towards the nearby house area. Large, unevenly weighted tree sections should only be lowered in a tight clearance zone with dedicated directional rigging already in place. On a busy warehouse floor, workers try to push a tall, top-heavy battery cart. It quickly becomes unbalanced under its own weight. Manually handling narrow, top-heavy industrial equipment without proper mechanical aids greatly increases the chance of sideways stability loss. Always wear certified steel-toe boots in material handling areas to create a rigid protective barrier against equipment contact risks. Assess the load stability before moving it. On a rural curve, a tractor pulls into the road. At that moment, another speeding vehicle appears over the hill with limited reaction space. Entering a public roadway from a hidden access point or limited visibility curve should only happen after verifying a completely clear line of sight in all directions. Pulling slow-moving, heavy agricultural equipment into an active traffic lane without absolute clearance creates a traffic safety risk, leaving approaching drivers with limited reaction time to respond to a traffic situation. Always use a dedicated spotter or install convex mirrors when exiting blind driveways. Inside a narrow warehouse aisle, a forklift makes contact with a loaded rack. The contact leads to storage rack movement across the system. Operating heavy machinery in tightly packed storage aisles leaves very little room for error, as towering industrial racks are highly vulnerable to lateral contact. A small bump from a heavy forklift can quickly affect a critical support column, weakening the structural grid and initiating a rack stability problem that can displace stored inventory across the aisle. Always maintain a deliberate, controlled speed and strict spatial awareness when navigating congested inventory zones. Protect vulnerable racking structures with heavy-duty column guards or base bollards to absorb accidental mechanical contact before it can create a larger rack stability concern. Inside a tight workshop, a worker climbs an unsecured ladder near an open floor area. It shifts out of position beneath him. An A-frame stepladder should only be climbed after verifying that the spreaders are fully locked and all 4 feet are planted squarely on. Stable, level ground. Scaling an unbalanced ladder in a confined space turns a routine task into an unstable, elevated work position, affecting your balance the second the frame shifts out of alignment. Always inspect your ladder's footing and strictly lock the hinges before stepping off the ground. An overhead beam should not be used as a substitute for 3 points of contact on the ladder itself. If your base isn't completely secure, a balance issue can occur quickly. On a recycling facility floor, workers walk with their backs to active travel lanes, while a forklift moves forward with its view obstructed. A forklift should not be driven forward when the payload obscures the operator's line of sight. Moving heavy equipment with limited visibility through a shared workspace creates a reduced visibility movement area, limiting the operator's reaction time and leaving unaware pedestrians unable to respond safely to an equipment contact risk. Always drive in reverse when carrying an oversized load to maintain absolute visibility of your travel path. Foot traffic should not be mixed with heavy machinery. Always establish strictly enforced barricaded pedestrian walkways to physically separate workers from mobile equipment. In a rural yard, a worker cuts through a sizable tree. A pickup sits just feet away inside the planned work area. Parking a vehicle inside the active clearance zone of a felling operation creates an uncontrolled area for moving material. A simple miscalculation in the hinge cut can quickly redirect the weight of the trunk, creating avoidable equipment damage during what should be a controlled yard cleanup task. Always clear a wide perimeter and move all vehicles well beyond the tree's maximum clearance radius before starting any cutting work. A truck bed should not be treated as a convenient landing area for timber. Gravity and wood movement can create costly damage for anything left in their path. In a snow-covered timber yard, a forklift pulls from an unstable log pile. The stack shifts out of position and moves toward the equipment. Materials should not be pulled from the bottom or middle of a large freestanding stockpile. Undermining a large stack of loose cylindrical materials quickly weakens its structural integrity, triggering unexpected material movement that can affect any machinery positioned in the material movement path. Always build stockpiles using proper terracing techniques, structural bunks, or retaining racks to securely contain the materials. Piled loads should not be undercut. Always dismantle stacks deliberately from the top down to reduce the risk of unmanaged material movement. On an elevated timber deck, a crane lifts a bundle of logs. The load shifts out of alignment during the lift. Workers should remain off unsecured, bundled materials during an active hoisting operation. The unpredictable movement of cylindrical logs under tension quickly weakens the stability of the load, turning a routine lift into a major load control concern that can place anyone standing on it in an unprotected position near the active work area. Always keep your feet firmly planted on solid, engineered decking and step completely clear of the load before signaling the crane operator. A bundled load should not be used as a temporary work platform. Once those materials become loose, the safe exit path can become limited quickly. At this masonry site, a worker stands on a makeshift scaffold while a coworker climbs onto the frame. The extra movement suddenly makes the whole structure unstable. Work only from properly built and anchored scaffolding, and keep temporary support frames clear of additional climbing while someone is already positioned above. Improvised platforms may seem functional for a moment, but they lack the stability needed to safely support shifting weight and movement. Supervisors should require engineered scaffolding that is level, braced, and anchored before elevated work begins. Workers should access platforms only through designated points, not by climbing the structure itself. The problem with unstable scaffolding is that it often appears safe right up until the moment it loses support. On a sloped construction site, a cement mixer sits on a low traction incline. Moments later, it begins moving backwards down the slope. Parking substantial liquid-loaded machinery on a steep grade should not depend solely on internal parking brakes. The dynamic, shifting weight of a spinning concrete mixer can easily exceed the brake's holding ability, quickly allowing a temporarily parked truck to move unexpectedly and create clear safety concerns. Always deploy heavy-duty wheel chocks and verify ground stability before beginning any downhill pouring operation. Keep yourself completely outside the travel path of a substantial vehicle. When the truck begins moving unexpectedly, a large moving vehicle becomes difficult to control safely. In a loading yard, a truck carrying a forklift pulls away with its rear door left open. The unsecured forklift then rolls off the truck. Wheeled industrial equipment should only be transported inside a vehicle when heavy-duty load-rated tie-downs are used to completely immobilize the machine. Relying solely on a forklift's parking brake against the strong movement forces of a moving truck allows heavy equipment to shift during transport, creating equipment damage concerns and broader safety concerns. Always secure mobile machinery using a proper 4-point tie-down system before transport begins. Cargo doors should remain fully closed while in motion, and a machine's internal braking system should not be treated as the main method for controlling movement and inertia during transit. To keep learning from these important workplace safety lessons, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay aware, stay safe.